With your perspective in your landscape painting, you do need to know just a bit about perspective so that your buildings are in perspective and things like your fences disappear away at the right angle and your roads get narrower as they go away from you and your rivers and your water gets narrow as it goes away from you. We're not going to talk about tones in perspective here, we're going to talk about the perspective drawing, the actual structure. So we'll have a look at a cottage. One thing is very important is the horizon line. The horizon line is the line where your eye is, the level. And why it's important to be level is that most buildings are built level. Most of them, the roof is square. Most of them are square. And also water is perfectly level. It finds its own level automatically. So what we call the horizon line is you're looking straight out level. So here's a house. Here we've got a bit of a farm or something. We'll build a house. There's a house like that. Okay. And my horizon line's there. So you've got trees and things here. Your eye would be about there. So that'd be your horizon line. Now if you paint your house with a roof like that, well, this is pointing up here. It's no good. Everything must point towards the horizon line. So let's rub that out. Okay. And so we had our house like that. Okay. That was our house, something like that. There's your horizon line again. The house has to point somewhere on that line. The roof has to be there, like that. Everything must point towards this horizon line. That's your eye level. Everything's level on top. It's not hard to look at a drawing and see if it's right or wrong. So first thing is, I see so many houses that are like this. It's no good. Everything must go towards a horizon line. So if you've got a building, and the building is up here like this, buildings, everything on those buildings must come towards that horizon line. They might not all have the same vanishing point. One building might be turned a bit and its vanishing point is different. But everything must slope down there. If it doesn't slope down there, it means they've built the house with a roof at an angle like that, instead of being flat or with the walls, they're like that. So if everything's level, now you can have a look at something like a picture of a house or anything, get something at a good angle, so you're standing on the corner and you're looking down the side of the house, say, and you can draw those horizon lines. You can get the photograph or the drawing and draw them all in, and you'll find that all the walls meet in the same point. Practice that and have a look. Now we'll have a quick look at how you draw things. If you've got a square or anything, rectangle, and you want to find the middle of it, you cross it. Okay, there's the middle. So if you've got a telegraph pole here, and you've got another telegraph pole here, and you want to put a telegraph pole in the middle on your drawing, and you want it to look in perspective, you mentally do that. And that point there is the middle between those two telegraph poles. They're drawn in there. Of course the top of it's there and the bottom of it's there. But the middle point is there. So if you've got a fence and it's coming towards you, okay, we've got a horizon line and we've got a fence, starts there and comes to a big post here. There's a fence along the road, there's a road. You want to draw the middle of the fence? There it is. You want to draw the post between that? There it is. The post between that? There it is, etc, etc, etc. You try it. You draw the cross and that finds the centre. Now with fences and things, we're running out of board. I'll clean this bit off. If you've got your horizon line there, which is supposed to be my eye level, okay, and you've got a fence coming towards you, and the fence is below the horizon line. The fence post comes to here. It doesn't matter if it's above the horizon line or below the horizon line. The telegraph poles might be above, they might be here, but the fence is lower. You still do your crosses and that slopes down. Another problem people have, they paint their water, so you've got a creek coming towards you, and the creek will come towards you like this, and it'll come towards you like this. It looks like it's standing up. It can't be like that. If the creek is 20 foot wide there, it'd have to be 3 mile wide up here somewhere. It's just not right. So all your things that are coming towards you, your roads, your tracks and everything, have to come towards you like that. They have to get bigger all the way as they come towards you. You can't have a bush track that weaves its way towards you like this, okay, and then it comes like this, and then like that. What's going on here? Look, it's too narrow there. You have to think about this, okay. And it not only was too narrow there, it's too narrow everything. If a bush track was coming towards you like that, it'd have to come bigger all the way. Well, you might not have understood all that, but take your time and look around and see how things do get smaller when they're far away and get bigger when they're near you. You can find some photographs and draw them up so you extend the construction lines and find the horizon line and see where your eye level is on different scenes. Notice how if you're in a big crowd, say at a market or something like that, you'll see that all the heads are basically at the same height. They're not all up and down. And everything at that height is your eye level. So think about it, have a look and just see how things are big when they're near you and very small when they're away. And you can measure with a ruler just how big and small things are. This next video is one I made some years ago, and it looks at perspective, and we have a very good look at perspective. So this might help you again. And also this video goes into tones of colour, which has a lot to do with perspective. This exercise is to help you with your perspective drawing in regards to painting landscapes. We'll start with a simple exercise, a horizon line. The horizon line is your eye level. It doesn't matter where you're standing, the horizon line is your eye level. Anything coming towards you from the horizon line above your eye level appears to be up. Anything coming towards you from the horizon line below your eye level appears to be down. To find the middle of anything, it's a good idea to draw diagonals. We'll draw diagonals on our sheet, and that'll show us the middle of the sheet. We'll draw a road in. This is an imaginary road. And on the side of the road, we have a big telegraph pole. And way in the distance, there's a little telegraph pole. Now we'll use diagonals to work out where the middle telegraph pole goes. Does it go there, or does it go down there? Well, the right way to do it is to draw the diagonals from the near telegraph pole to the far telegraph pole, one on the top and one on the bottom. And where they cross, that will give us the exact position of the middle telegraph pole. But it doesn't give us the height. We need to draw a line along the top of the telegraph poles to determine the height. My telegraph pole is too high, so we'll chop the top off and put it in place. There's my telegraph pole, right in the middle between the two telegraph poles. The intermediate telegraph poles between them can easily be found by drawing the diagonals and the top and bottom line and putting them in place. And there's our telegraph poles all neatly drawn in perspective. On the other side of the road I wish to put a fence, so I'll put my little fence post in the distance. I want to see over this fence, so the line that represents the top of the posts will be below the horizon line. The post near us is taller than the post in the distance. We can draw the diagonals in and find the intermediate fence posts, and by continuing to draw the diagonals and put the poles in, we can put all the poles spaced at the right distance so they look as if they are in perspective.
except the big pole nearest should be thicker because it's closer to us. So we draw it thicker, we draw the sides of the road thicker and the telegraph pole thicker, and there they are, all in perspective. Drawing buildings in perspective. We'll start the horizontal line, which is the horizon line, the same as in our telegraph pole drawings. The horizon line is your eye level, and there's a road coming towards us and a road going away. We're standing on the corner looking to where we're going to put our building. We start with an upright pole that represents the nearest corner to us, and at the pole we'll put our model to give us an idea of how high we should draw that pole. I'd say it should be well above her head and the top of the pole should be the right height. From there we can draw construction lines in both directions to the vanishing points to represent the front and side walls of the building. That's exactly where the walls will be and the way they will sweep away from us. The length of the walls is imaginary. We can put in the length of our walls where we wish. We'll colour the walls in, and that's our front and side wall. We need to put a door in the middle of the front wall. So to find the middle, we draw our diagonals, put in an upright, and that's the centre line of the door. The height of the door can be determined by putting our model on the wall line, and the height above her head, the construction line from the vanishing point to a point well above her head, will give us clearance for her to walk through the door. So that's the position of the top of the door, and we can easily draw in the sides of the door and colour it in, and that's our front door. And we want to put windows each side of the front door. So if we draw in our diagonals, so we can find the middle of the panels each side of the door, and our uprights are the centre lines of the windows. The height of the window can be the same height as the top of the door. The windowsill, the bottom of the window, should be about the waistline of the model, so we can draw a construction line in there, and that will give us the windowsill line. You'll notice that line runs downhill from the vanishing point. That is the windowsill height. Then we can draw in our windows, and that's our front windows. The side wall, to put a door in there, what we need to do is draw the diagonals in the side wall. Then the upright, which is the centre line of the door, and a line from the vanishing point to the point well above the model's head will give us the top of the door. And from that we can sketch the door in, and that's our door. We can have our roof as high as we wish. We can make it up, but the roof really does need to be in the middle. So we'll put a line up the middle, that's our centre line, and draw our gable in at a reasonable height, and that's our gable. From the vanishing point, we can draw construction lines through the gable and project our roof forward, and that will give us the eaves. Then we can colour them in, and a few lines here and there on the house, and there's our house, all finished in perspective. If the house was well down the street, we'd be able to see the top of the roof. Our house is too close to see the top of the roof. There's the construction lines of the house further down the street where we can see the top of the roof. We still use the same vanishing points. Even if we've got a big tall house, we still use those same construction lines. For anything on these streets, the construction lines will vanish to the same vanishing points. So remember that, and keep an eye on things. Have a look at your paintings and see if everything is in place. You can have a look at your paintings to see by putting construction lines on your paintings, just imaginary ones if you wish. We'll have a look at my picture. There's two construction lines, one on the top of the roof, one on the gutter. They join, but they don't join on what appears to be the horizon line. The horizon line is about the windowsill height, and they don't join on that line. They join well above it. So my roof is slightly out of perspective. On the front wall of the building, we'll have a look there to see if my gable's in place. No, my gable is slightly out of perspective. It's not in the middle of the wall. And my front wall, see if it's in perspective. It seems to slope away at the right angle. So possibly the front wall of the building is sloping away to the horizon line, and it could be pretty well in perspective. Now, when you're out and about, have a look at things and see if you can spot the horizon lines and the vanishing points. and see how things disappear in the distance. This set of shelves in a shopping centre. I'll blank the back wall out so you can see. All the shelves line up and disappear to the same spot. They're all aiming at that vanishing point, and they all go to the same spot. And there's your horizon line. Just look along buildings and things and see if you can spot it. But when you look at your paintings, it makes it easier to spot the difference between in perspective and not in perspective. Now we'll have a look at perspective regarding colours and tones in your Australian landscape painting. We use very bright colours in Australian landscapes. This painting is in tones of grey, from dark tone to light tone, very pale tone in the distance and very dark tones in the foreground. If it was a coloured painting, we'd still use the same system, very pale tones in the distance and very dark tones in the foreground. With your skies, keep your sky very dark above your head, and as it moves into the background, down to the horizon line, keep it very pale. You can even have it white on the horizon line. The sky from blue to white gives you very good perspective. Keep your top corners nice and dark. This will give you good perspective also. With your foreground, keep the ground level at your feet very dark and have the foreground fade into very pale shades as it disappears into the distance. Your mountains are pale. The distant mountain will be the palest mountain, and as it comes towards you, they gain colour and get darker, but they must not get too dark. Keep them pale and in the distance. They're usually blue, all shades of blue. Your trees can be green in the foreground. You can have green leaves on the foreground trees, but they don't take long before they fade into a faded colour in the distance. You'll see the difference. Very faded green in the distance, and that green is a grey green. It's usually mixed with raw sienna, a little bit of green, a little bit of grey and white. So for your background yellows, use raw sienna in your clouds, mountains and in your trees. Red is a foreground colour. Don't use red in the background. Red can be used on your trees or anywhere in the foreground. If you need red in the background, use a faded shade of crimson. Brown is also a foreground colour. Never use brown in your background. So keep your corners dark and keep your background very bright, and then you'll have good perspective. Sometimes we use white in the foreground, lots of white. As long as you have plenty of darks to compensate, you'll get away with it, such as this gum tree here. Keep the darks in the foreground. Now and then you may need to use a little bit of dark in the background, such as the twig in the distant water here. That's okay because it's just a little bit of dark, but not very often do you have to do that. So keep your foregrounds dark and your backgrounds bright, and you'll be able to paint pictures with great perspective.